All right then. The next couple of things I'm doing tonight, I'd like to kind of reiterate what I've been saying about economics, and also about what happened on September the 7th here in the Whitechapel area with the EDL march. But first of all, economics. No, I don't know anything about economics, really. I mean, I could run a Welk stall, which is probably better than the Chancellor of the Exchequer could do, so maybe I do know a bit about economics, but that is about it. But before I was talking about this recovery that they were saying was going on, and I didn't believe, and neither does anybody else believe is happening. 0.06% or something, or something like that anyway, less than 1%. I said that it was probably to do with the housing boom, or the luxury flats that are being built, and people paying millions and millions of pounds for each luxury flat and so forth, and all the people coming from abroad to do this. This is what you might call overseas money coming in. And this is what our recovery, so-called, is based upon. Now, it was said that a third of the new jobs that have been created recently, amounting to 77,000, have in fact, the 77,000 are all gone into one particular part of the economy. And there's now 77,000 more people working in what they call in America real estate, and what we call here estate agents, arriving at a grand total, and this is all in the newspapers, of 562,000 people are now working in estate agents, which is like well over 500,000, which means that there's more people actually working in estate agents, selling houses, buying and selling, than there are actually building them. So what kind of economy is this? There's only one way that's going to go, and that is the crash. Foxtons has been floated on the stock market and so on, and if you wanted to invest a few thousand, 10 or 20,000 people, thousand in the shares, you would have made quite a bit of money in the space of about 12 hours. But that's the economy that we've got, isn't it? I look at Leman Street, where I live, at the bottom of Leman Street. But the top of Leman Street, there's still houses are being, or luxury multi-million pound flats are being constructed, and by the week you can see them going up. There's a whole complex about to open in October. Be very interesting to see the sort of people that move in there. These flats, I don't know how much they're going for, but obviously it'll be well over 1 million, and there are like literally hundreds of them. So there you are, hundreds of millions, and that's part of the 0.6%. There are a lot of buildings going up. Some of them are sold before they've even been built, and some of the signs, particularly the ones down Cable Street, are saying things like, what an excellent investment they make. Investment. You might think, well, how does that make? But you've got to look at it this way. If people buy a flat for 2 million, invest 2 million in a flat, or whatever they invest in it, then within 2 or 3 years, the value of that property has increased by about 20%. So, you know, that's a lot of money, a hell of a lot of money. A really good investment, as they say. And it's a good investment as well, because there's, unlike if these flats are erected anywhere else in the world, apart probably from New York and maybe Sydney, Australia, any other part of the world, there is a possibility there might be a revolution, an upheaval, and so therefore the investment might become completely invalid. So on that way, oh yeah, apparently a lot of the Greek money, you know, the Greek billionaires and so on, they're investing a lot of their money in while their countrymen starve, while most of their youth are out of work, while the total economy collapses. They've removed all of their money, plus a hell of a scoop from all that International Monetary Fund and EU money that's coming, and they're investing it in property over here. So that's where a lot of the money went. It's over here. What about the people on the other end of the spectrum? I've noticed there's more people sleeping on the streets around here lately. But of course this won't be encouraged, and the police will move them on, or, as they do in Westminster, will get their pitiful possessions and throw them into a dust cart, thus leaving them with nothing in the world whatsoever, not even a sleeping bag to sleep in. What else can I say about this? Oh yes, there was another thing as well. Yesterday, which is Sunday, in Kuala Lumpur of all places, they were selling 2 blocks of flats in Stratford that were constructed around the Olympic Park. Now, and they're being advertised in Kuala Lumpur. No social housing is included in these blocks. Well, so much for being inclusive. And of course they're being sold off in Kuala Lumpur. Not here, but in Kuala Lumpur. So you can see where a lot of the money is coming from. It's coming from the pigs who've ripped off their own people. People that own factories that pay about $1 a day in wages. People that sort of steal all the money from the government balance. Well, the people that actually run the government and so on. Their sons and daughters, the bureaucrats. A lot of people from so-called communist China and so on. This is where the money's coming from. But it's also coming from America as well. I mean, just walking down Lehman Street, the amount of American accents you hear, and I don't actually see any other reason these Americans are here. They're not tourists. That they're here except for the fact that they're living in the luxury flats. So, like, you know, we're becoming like Manhattan Island, where only the rich can live, where there's no social housing, apart from a few people sleeping on the streets, of course. The other thing about housing is the bedroom tax, which hasn't really produced the sort of reaction that the poll tax did and so on, and all it means is that there's been increased suicides, and a further the people subjected to the bedroom tax have gone into basically debt to pay it from the loan sharks and so on, great friends of the government. Meanwhile, though, no one ever says anything about this. There are places in Kensington and places in Hampstead where you've got one person and they've got 6, 10 or even 20 bedrooms, and the flats are not even occupied all during the year, as they, you know, being international. Yeah, they don't let working class people from abroad here, but if you're rich, you can come, you know, that's no problem whatsoever. No borders for the rich, as I always say. But there's no outrage at the fact that there could be one person living in a house that's got 10 bedrooms in it, you know. But because they're rich, it's okay. It doesn't really matter. The government is also going to put 66,000 to sort of the middle classes to help them to buy their own houses, or some amount of money anyway. So that's really great. At our expense, the people at the bottom end, the people are being squeezed dry. We are having to pay mortgages for the middle classes. Wonderful. And we can't pay rent, really, because you can't pay inflated rents on deflated wages. Squatting is illegal now, although some people still do it. But you know, you have no security or anything like that. You know, you might as well be. It's like sleeping on the streets, except you can have your sleeping bag under a roof for a few weeks. So where's it all going? What's actually going to happen? It's got to blow. There's no mass protest on the streets or anything about the housing situation, and I consider it to be far more important than that of employment or unemployment. And a lot of people really think that they've got a stake in the system. It's difficult to understand. Perhaps it's British exceptionalism. Who knows? But as this housing thing, and it's said even in like right-wing papers, it's all a bubble. It's all going to burst. And when it bursts, and remember what caused the last bank crash was the bursting of the housing bubble in the USA. So if the housing bubble crashes here, I think the consequences could be actually quite dire, with maybe millions of people looking for a roof over their heads. So where's it all going? As there's been no action? Well, maybe all these flats just down the road, thousands and thousands of them will be completed within a year. Maybe they'll all be empty. Well, they're going to be empty anyway because the people that buy them don't live in them. And maybe we'll be forced to squat them. Maybe there'll be so many people squatting that they can't do anything about all these laws that they devise. And it's not just a few hairy hippies that are squatting, but everybody, because they have to, and people might be squatting in their own homes. But the only thing that will bring this on is a crash. And so therefore, would I like to see a crash? Well, let's put it this way. I can't carry on living like this. There's loads of people that can't go living like this. There's loads of people committing suicide, old people, young people. There's loads of people scared, despondent, in depression and so on. You've got the growth of the right wing in this country as a false solution to it all. Would I like to see it crash? Yes, I would like to see it crash. And I'd like to see it crash big style. Not small style, big style, you know. Bring it on, I say. Because we can't live like this anymore, you know. Tearing each other apart, having a go at each other, blaming it on like Romanians and Bulgarians and so on, when the real people that are to blame are the rich, the privileged and so on. That 1% that they talk about, they're the ones that are to blame, and all the lick-spittle people that support them, all the people that are highly paid working in the city, highly paid working in estate agents, and of course the police who protect them 100%. That is why I'd like to see it crash, because if it doesn't crash, we're going to crash. It's going to be a crash for us, but not for them. Society is like this, isn't it? Socialism for the rich and capitalism for us. So let's do away with it. Let's do away with the socialism for the rich and the capitalism for the poor. Out on the streets, the usual solution. Revolution, upheaval. It's happening all over the world. It's just begun. Bring it on here. If it takes a housing crash to do it, let it come. That's it.